Hi there, and welcome to this episode of Your Property Business. This is the property video podcasts that talks to people in the property industry and helps to share advice and good practice on how to get the most out of your own property business. And today I'm delighted to be speaking to Dave Ford. Let me tell you a bit about Dave. Dave has over 40 years experience in the construction industry. He also works as a private consultant, and he does his own property developments for himself. And that isn't a recent thing. Dave has been doing that since his late teens and has now got many projects and experience under his belt. So there's lots of colourful history around Dave's CV that I'm going to explore with you now, and then we're going to draw into this conversation topics like how to be a better client for your builders, and the things that you need to do to make sure that you are safe, your contractors are safe, and you follow all the regulations that are in place. So without further ado, let me bring Dave
Hello,
to
Chris.
screen.
Yeah, good, mate.
And welcome, Dave. So hi, Dave. You're right. Good. So I've just introduced you. I'm not sure if you heard any of that, but I've just given a very brief overview of your 40 plus years in construction. But without stealing your thunder, do you want to take me through a little bit about where you've been, what you've done, and what gets you to this point?
All right, I'll try. My dad had a mechanical and electrical company, but he did property development on the side. So I started off when I was a kid
Yeah.
at school, going to work with them, and that's where I started learning about general construction
Yeah.
and property development. Then I've done an apprenticeship when I was 16 as an electrician,
Okay.
and after that, I pursued a career in the industry, sometimes with my dad, sometimes taking my own path, working with my dad, doing property developments. But by the age of 18, 19, I was doing my own ones as well.
Okay. What was it about property and property development that
Well, I had no
sparked your
choice. My
interest?
dad
Why,
made
why
me go to
bother? Why
work with
even
him.
start
So,
something like that?
well, it wasn't a particular interest. It was just money. And obviously, it became apparent very quickly that what you could earn in, I don't know, 6 months of or a year of going to work for someone, you could make in a couple of months doing a property renovation project.
Okay. I mean, it's interesting that way people are introduced into this sort of stuff. In that, some people have like an aha moment by reading a book or having a conversation, but it seems like your introduction into it was
Yeah,
you had no choice.
pretty
This was what you
much.
just did. This was what you just did. But I guess you took that on at
Well,
some point,
yeah,
like fairly
it
early
just
on, and
became
went
apparent
independent.
to
I
me that
guess.
this was something that I actually understood that a lot of people didn't, and it was silly not to do it.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So in terms of your career, I guess, your sort of more traditional career. Can you give us sort of some examples of the things that you've done in your time
Yeah,
in
so
your kind
as
of
I
more
said, I
corporate
was
life?
a spark. I was just an electrician on a building site. But I always wanted the money. I was what
Yeah.
they call I was a money monster. I hunted the money. I wanted to work 7 days a week.
Okay.
And for
Yeah.
about 20 years, I actually worked during the day. I'd
Yeah.
go home, have a few hours sleep, and then I'd go work on London Underground as well at night. Come home, have an hour and a half sleep, and go to work in the day. So through that, as you can imagine, I was just on
Yeah.
loads and loads of jobs. It's quite funny when people ask me how many jobs I've just not got a clue. How many sites I've been on. It's got to be
Yeah.
up in the thousands. I just wouldn't have a clue. And so I'm always I'm moving around. I'm building up
No.
my network and that, staying in touch with blokes I met from previous jobs. And I say, oh
Yeah.
look, we're on this job. We're getting paid this much. Oh great, can you get stuff? And so
Yeah.
on and so forth. And
Yeah.
then it was in 1997 that I first went on a big major infrastructure project, and that was the Jubilee Line extension when they built a new railway line. So that was another world. That
Okay.
was massive sums of money, and I saw at that point that there was an entirely new level of employment that I wasn't aware of, and that is the management role. And I decided that that was what I wanted. But of course, to break into that, Now you're talking about being really highly skilled, qualified, etc. So I realised there was a path of
Yeah.
academic study that my practical skills weren't enough, and so I started, at the lower management levels, and I studied and got better qualified. Went on to bigger jobs, etc., etc. I worked for the Candy Brothers when they built Number One Hyde Park. Now, at the time, that was the most exclusive address in London. I worked on a couple of other prestige things like the Shard, the Heron
Yeah.
Tower. I worked on the Olympics. Um, I ended up on Crossrail where I held various management roles. I was a site manager, construction manager, assistant project manager, senior project manager. I was quality assurance engineer. And by this time, now my peer group
Yeah.
had really become top professionals. There were engineers and designers and project managers from all over the
Yeah.
world there, and that's when I really learned how to do it at a high level. Then I went on, done a bit on HS2, done 18 months on now, and that brought me now to the role of a consultant. But don't forget, while I was still climbing the management path, I was still doing property development for myself and others. I was still working nights on the underground and so on.
So, I mean, I've just written down fierce work ethic, and that just seems to be the constant in your, how many
Well,
hours work can you fit in
yeah,
24 hours?
I mean, definitely, without doubt, work
24
ethic,
probably.
and I have my grandparents and my parents to thank for that. They came from Ireland with nothing, and you know, work ethic was drilled into me. But it also comes from the self-employed mentality. I've never in my life had a job on the cards on PAYE with holiday pay and sick pay. Never. So it literally was a case of
I see.
take it now while it's there because you don't know if next week it's not going to be there. And that's I wasn't living a
Yeah, yeah.
luxury life, flying to Dubai and the Bahamas and driving top of the range cars and that. It was just I don't know. There was just something about me. It was there. I wanted it.
Yeah, I mean, what sort of springing to mind is that with development particularly, I think there's a how am I going to do that? I work 9 to 5. I mean, how am I going to do a development project? And you've demonstrated time after time that of course you can. Finding the way to do it is secondary, but the will to do it. It seems that you were going to do these projects regardless of what you
Yeah,
were
but
doing in
but
your kind of
Chris,
your paid employment, I
the only
suppose.
way I was able to do that was by gathering the right people around me because you can't be in two places at once.
Okay,
So if you're going to employ someone or go into partnership with someone
okay,
or rely on someone to do something, you've got to know that that person is actually going to do it. Um, so I gathered people like me, people who believed in being the best at what they could be, people who were committed at all times to the highest standards. Because when you're a money monster trying to work 3 jobs a week, you just can't make mistakes because you don't have time to go back and fix them. So everything you do has
yeah,
got to be done right. It's got to be done right first time. It's
right.
got to be done by the best people. That means you need to find the best people to gather around you. Otherwise, um, I wouldn't have been able to do it. I don't think anyone who's listening to this who's got a full time job trying to do development, if you cannot rely on the people you delegate to, then it will rebound on you. So that feeds into one of my um, principles is of not cutting corners. You got to understand there's a difference between
Yeah.
cost and value. Um, and I see a lot of people
Uh-huh.
in the property community don't understand that. They buy on price, they don't buy on value. So I don't want the cheapest
Okay.
builder working for me. I don't want the cheapest project manager. I don't want that. I want the best, right? Because two things are going to happen now. They're going to deliver the results that I want, and they're going to spare me from the time-consuming headache of having to fix what they didn't do properly. So that's what I want. I want value. I'm not focused on cost. And I see this quite often, people making this mistake when they embark on property projects. They fail to understand that you are not in business to save money. You are in business to make money. Therefore, you have to deploy all your assets to give you the maximum payback. If I tell you this piece of work is going to take 10 men 1 week at £1,000 a man, therefore it's 10 grand. Why are you trying to do it with 8 men? I've already told you it's going to take 10. So what happens is the 8 can't do it. It becomes a massive mess, and you have to bring in an additional 5 at the end. So it's now cost you 12, 13 grand with a load of headache as well.
Yeah. I guess that what's the sort of practical thing I'm thinking about is if some of our listeners are thinking, okay, I fancy, even a renovation that doesn't involve massive development, particularly when you're starting out with no experience, that's the problem. I mean, you've had experience, albeit different experiences, throughout your career, and someone who wants to start this sort of thing is almost disadvantaged by nature because they may not know what good looks like. So how can you sort of square that? How can you sort of advise?
Yeah.
Don't go for the cheapest. It's something that
Well,
we can talk about. But I guess you don't want to be ripped off either. And there'll be some practical
Chris,
things you can do around that, I guess,
what I see
to
is
minimise the risk.
people embark on this. I understand, the lure of money. You do a couple of small developments, you can perhaps give your job up or do whatever. But I'm coming from a background, like people will say they're in property when they're not. They're in the construction industry. You're buying a building or a piece of land at the beginning, you're selling it or renting it out at the end. If I ask people what you're doing in the middle, they'd say a refurb, a BRR, an HMO. And I would say, no, you're not. You're not. You are setting up and running a fully fledged
Yeah,
construction site. Therefore, you are in the construction industry. So I'm coming from a background where we all start at the top. We all start as either labourers or apprentices or managers, come out of university and go and study a degree. None of us just think, I fancy the look of that, let's jump into it tomorrow. We don't do that. So when people say, how can someone with no experience just start a project and make sure it goes all right? Well, it's not as easy as that. But to answer your question, for some practical tips,
no.
yeah, I
Dave,
can
I'm just
hear
going to stop you
you.
there 2 seconds. My sound's gone a bit weird. Can you hear me okay?
I think I
Okay,
can
I'm
hear
just
a
going
bit
to
of
plug you into
feedback
something
from
else. Give me two
myself in the
seconds.
background. All right, you say when?
There we go. Let's try that next. Perfect. So you were saying, yeah, I can hear you now. So I think you were going to give us some practical tips about
All
how
right.
a
So
potential new
some
person
very
could,
simple
at least
things.
de-risk themselves a
Let's
little bit.
use a scenario of a person or persons are buying a 3-bedroom house. They want to, do some work to it, increase the value, maybe with or without an extension. That's nice and easy. And they don't have any practical experience and they want to protect themselves from the risks. So that, as I said before, the greatest chance of success you've got is by using the best tradesman that you can get within your budget. So, first of all, you have to have a budget, and that means one, you have to understand the full scope of works that need to be done inside that project, and two, you have to understand what the cost is, because if the cost is outside of your budget, you will need to alter those scope of works. If you don't have practical experience of that, you need to go and pay a professional. You need to go and spend between £250 and £750 to a building surveyor who will walk through that job with you, who write you a schedule of works, then decide on your spec, which is the standard to which you would like it done. and then he will give you the cost of it, right? If you don't have a full scope, comprehensive scope of works, no builder in the world can give you an accurate price of what it's going to cost him, because you don't even know what you want yourself. So if the builder can't give you an accurate cost, he can't work out how long it's going to take, right? So number one thing, go and pay a professional, someone who does it for a living, someone who's got decades of experience. Then you will have these documents. So now you can go out to tender. You can contact local builders or tradesmen to come and price for your project. Okay, right? That way you're comparing apples with apples. Because if you just get 3 different builders around and you say, look, mate, walk round the house with me. This is what I want. Do you think I need that? I'm thinking of having that, but I'm not sure. He's going to give you one answer. The second person will give you a completely different answer, and the third will be completely different. And you won't have a clue who's the right one.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. Now, when you're trying to get builders, it's about doing your due diligence on them. I hear, well, personally, with my 40 plus years of experience and several thousand projects, I hear some really bad advice going around. You know, like for a start, take a builder with you to look at it. That's just ridiculous. You know, that is utterly ridiculous advice. What self-respecting builder has got time to walk around with someone who don't know what they're doing and doesn't even know what they want? This stuff about go and check a builder's previous work. So if I'm a builder and I've just done an HMO for someone, do you think I can phone them up and go, yeah, is it all right if some total stranger comes round at 7 o'clock tonight, goes in all your tenants' rooms and starts poking around, looking like? Do you think they're going to say, yeah, sure? That's bad advice, right? We're in the age of the internet.
No.
Any decent builder is going to have examples of his work on his web page, right? Of course, he's only ever going to show you the good stuff, but it's like if you ask to see his previous work and he'd done 3 rubbish jobs, he's not going to send you around there to look at them. It all comes down to a document called Pre-Qualification Questionnaire. You will be able to ascertain the builder's competence in various things. Now, for people like me or people more experienced, this is how it starts. So we look round, we either get recommendations or we find builders on organisations such as the Chartered Institute of Building or the Federation of Master Builders. We find ones that are close to us. We contact them. We say, dear sir, I've got this project here. It's 3-bedroom house refurbing, wherever. I estimate the value of the works of 45 grand. Here's some just basic outline drawings. You know, would you be interested in tendering? Now, they might just say, no, I'm not interested at all. If they are, reply to you. You then send them back the pre-qualification questionnaire, asking them about their financial status, how many jobs they got on at the moment, how many jobs they got currently going, what's their attitude to health and safety, how many of their site managers have this particular site management safety training certificate. That's for you to think, yeah, they look pretty half decent. At that point, you would then send them a full scope with bills of quantities, with your spec, with your proposed start and end date. This is how it's meant to work. At every point, you're de-risking yourself because you're cutting out builders who you don't think are any good. In an ideal situation, you will have 3 or 4 at the end who have all quoted more or less the same price. It's now up to you to decide which ones you think you could work with, right? You have massively de-risked that project before it even starts.
I mean, that simple explanation is, what feels to me quite different than the reality of a lot of, builder engagement process. I think, like you say, everyone can recognise, come and look at my project. I think a lot of people can recognise that. and they probably have done it as well. And I'm pretty sure I've done it. Come and have a look at me in my projects. And what you've talked there about
Yeah,
a schedule of works by a building surveyor. So this, I guess, just thinking about it, it seems like really obvious now you say it. It's the only way to compare
yeah.
apples with apples, because there's only one list of stuff and one list of job and one spec.
Now, look,
Otherwise,
Chris, you might find,
it isn't a comparison.
let's say
Um,
the building surveyor said it should cost 50 grand, right? If all of them, the ones that you think you can work with, come in at 65 grand, it's going to be 65 grand, regardless of what the building surveyor says,
Yeah.
right? If you can't stretch to that, you have no option but to either lower your spec so they can do it for 50, or take a cheap builder. But you cannot expect to get top quality from a low caliber builder. It is as simple as that. That's what you've done, then you can't turn around at the end and say the builder was useless, right? And also, let's say you find 3 builders are really good, you're confident with them, they seem really professional, they've answered all your questions, they've produced all the documentation you've asked for them, you've met them, you think they're very professional. Still, don't go with the cheapest quote. There might be one that's 5 or 10 grand higher than the other two. But if you just get a feeling that you could, I'm talking for myself. I shouldn't be giving advice. I'm just talking for myself. If I get a feeling that I just gel better with this bloke and I think I could work with him, and as long as it's within my budget, that's who I'd go for. Because again, I'm not buying on price, right? I'm buying on quality. And I see so many property developers that, who like they are absolutely obsessed with squeezing every last penny out of a deal, whereas I'm not. I'd like 50 grand profit in a deal, right? But I'd be just as happy with 40, even 35 grand if it meant I had no headache and it was delivered on time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense that I do see sort of landlords and other sort of developer, also during refurbs, I'll source this, I'll source that, and they go and source things, and I guess it's their project, but it feels to be a bit of a
Also, Chris, when you do that,
not waste of
when
time,
you
but
start saying,
slowing things up a bit.
I mean, would you go into a restaurant in the West End of London and ask for the menu, right? And then look at everything, it comes to 100 quid, go,
I'll
well, I'll
cook me
tell
and
you what,
chips.
I don't like green beans. Can you take them off and knock 2 quid off? And I'll bring in my own cutlery, so if you can knock a fiver off that, and I'll help with the washing up, knock 20 quid off. That you just wouldn't do it. So when a builder goes, this is the cost, labour and materials is 50 grand. The minute you start talking about, I'll get the materials myself, what you're telling me a couple of things there. You're telling me, one, that you're tight, right? You're telling me that you resent me making my profit. And you're also telling me that you could be hard work, because I need to get your job not to. I've probably got 5 others on the go at the time. 3 are going all right. One's got some problems I wasn't expecting. 5th one's a nightmare. The geezer ain't paying me, he ain't answering my phone calls, nothing. It's a nightmare. I need to get yours boshed out because I've got 3 other big ones to start. I've now, by allowing you to provide the materials, I've introduced a variable into the success of that project that I can't control, right? So you have now made yourself a risk to me. We're a lot about how can developers reduce risk, but builders are looking the same thing as well. What's the risk to them? I've got someone here who ain't a builder, right? I've got someone who's trying to play hardball with me over 5 quid. I've been doing this all my life. You know what I mean? You ain't going to play hardball with me, mate. I tell you. I've been through 3 recessions. I've been knocked for hundreds of thousands of pounds in the past. I've had a couple of companies go under. It ain't going to happen again. You ain't doing it to me. You, amateur developer on this little 2-bit refurbishment project, ain't going to do my nutting and fight me over pennies, because I'm just walking away. I don't need it.
That all makes sense. We spoke about how, on the flip side, that you're doing
Yeah.
due diligence on your builder, etc., but he's doing due diligence on you. So you're touching on it there and saying he's looking at you, and is this worth my while? Are you going to resent me making profit, and are you going to be a pain in the ass? So how would so some people might be doing that unwittingly. They might be talking themselves out of a builder because they're saying the wrong things, doing the wrong things. What sort of things does
Okay, so this is
the
how it
best
works.
client
Now you
do?
got to think. In
How
the
to be the
past,
best client?
I had an electrical company, I had an house building company, and I've had other companies. So I've met many hundreds of clients, thousands even. I'm walking up to your front door. I've got a couple of things going around my head. One, do they even know what they want, right? Two, do they know what they're doing? If you're a residential homeowner, I don't expect you to know anything. That's fine. But if you tell me you're a property developer, then I expect you to know certain things. And if we start the project and at a point it becomes apparent that you don't, and it has now caused delay and time, I tell you what, it's coming out of your pocket. It ain't coming out of mine, right? So don't tell me you're some experienced property developer when you're not. It's far better to say, look, I ain't really done many of these, or I've never done any of them. That's fine. That ain't a problem. But this is what I'm thinking when I'm walking up. Do they even know what they want, right? Two, do they know what they're doing? Three, am I going to get paid? And four, are they going to do my nutting? That's the truth. This is a builder's thing. Because once you start, you don't want someone who's there every single day. Hello, I've just come to check up. What you doing? Is everything all right? When's this bit going to be done? And can you ask your bloke not to park so close to the neighbour's cut? And I noticed there's a bit of, no, hard work, don't need it, And if I meet you and we're talking about money, if straight away you're coming out with things like, how much? Oh, I don't think it'd be that much. And things like, oh, really? Well, I didn't think it'd be that much because my friend had her house done last year and they never charged that much. I could not care less, right? This ain't last year, you ain't your friend, and I ain't the other geezer. But what I can tell straight away is you could be hard work with money. Again, that's a big red flag to me. I just don't need it. You don't even know what you want, right? And so I can only give you a ballpark figure, and straight away you're telling me it's too much. And then you're telling me you didn't think it'd be that much. Well, with all due respect, based on what? What do you know about the cost of building materials and labours and supply chain uh, price rises and logistics and all that? You know what I mean? Don't do it. It's bad. You wouldn't do it to an accountant or a lawyer or a doctor, or you wouldn't do it to anyone else. But people seem to think look, we're not on holiday, right? In Morocco, down the market, buying a carpet. I go high, you go low. I come down a bit, you go, we meet in the middle. It's a very insulting thing to do to a builder or a tradesman. If it's out of your budget, then you just say, all right, thanks, I'll think about it, or you politely decline. Now, let's come to the other end of that. We've finally, we've decided we're going to work with each other. We're almost at the point of signing contracts, and I've given you my line by line itemised quote. There's 100 different things in there. You go through them all, going, that's what. Look, this year, whatever it is, you're quoting £6.5 grand for that. I only allowed £5 grand in my budget. Is there any chance you can bring it down? If there's £100 grand profit in it, then I might say, well, yeah, all right. Or if you go to something else and you go, look, I must be honest with you. You're saying this would be 12 grand. I had 4 other quotes. None of them come to more than 10 grand. I do think that's a little bit much. Can you explain to me why? Now I might have a valid reason for that, or I might just go, no, fair enough. Okay, yeah, 10 grand, I'll come down. So out of 100 grand profit, I've come down to 4.5 grand less. So that's all right. That's negotiation. You know what I mean? But that's once we've got the feel for each other, and I've decided that you're all right. But if at our very first meeting
yeah.
you're giving me the signal that you could be hard work for money, then I don't need any further conversation. I'm just
No. Well, that's it, isn't it? I think like it is a partnership for a period of time, 3, 6, 12
yeah,
months, however long it is. So I guess it's got to be start on the right footing, isn't it?
exactly.
With
But
the
then
sort of the
again,
mutual respect of, this
Chris,
is my trade,
if
this is your trade, and
again going back
let's
to
stick
if
to
you'd
what we
had a
know.
building surveyor prepare these documents for you, you could then say to me, well, look, my building surveyor has said it be that much. Why are you saying it's that much? At least you've got something to argue with. You're not just going, well, I think it's too much.
It just feels, yeah. No, it makes sense, Dave. Thank you. And I think we've talked again about the other sort of messages that you might want to bring out, and I've got two other ones to sort of talk to you about. One was
Yes.
stop treating property development as a hobby, and I say that to landlords. Owning a property comes with all sorts. You are a business owner as
Yeah.
soon as you own one property. It comes with legislation, it comes with tax, it comes with revenue, it comes with expenses, balance sheet, profit and loss, and due diligence and duty of care, etc., etc. So when you as soon as the day you own that, you take all of that on, and you might not know anything about anything about a lot of it. Is the truth. And I think that's where agents come in, and the professions come in to advise. And I guess that's listen to the advice, I suppose, is point number one. But what can sort of I guess developers, because we're sort of in that theme, do differently to stop treating it like a hobby? We've touched on some of it in terms of the respect and listening to your advisors, i.e. your building surveyors and your builders. What else can they do to
All right. So the
act more
number one
professional
thing
or
I
be more
always go to
business-like?
is the law regarding health and safety, and those are the CDM regulations 2015. If
Yeah.
I was to have some work done on my house, that I would have no responsibility at all for what the builder does. I would have none at all. If I decided to do some work on my house myself and I was balancing off a ladder and broke my neck and ended up in A&E, they would just say, well, more fool you. However, the minute I cross that line and I'm now doing it for a business, it completely changes. You now become, when you're having work done on your own home, you're a domestic client. When you're doing it for profit, as in a buy to let, an HMO, or a flip, you now become a commercial client. And the law places very, very specific, stringent obligations on the client, because most people just think, all health and safety is the responsibility of the builder. That is completely wrong. And the second thing they think is the builder will work safely. And you just cannot rely on that. You cannot. So by educating yourself about the CDM regulations, you're doing several things. By the way, you can be imprisoned for up to 2 years and subject to unlimited fines, which I do mean unlimited, in the hundreds of thousands or millions even. It's based on your turnover, but whatever, it will definitely be enough to send you under as a company. You can be disbarred from being a company director as being an unfit person. You find yourself all over the internet, and the internet's forever. You lose all your money if you're prosecuted, massive legal fees. You can lose all your investors' money. So, like I say, it's a business. So, if you educate yourself about them, you will protect yourself from the legal repercussions. But most importantly, look, by its very nature, any form of construction work is dangerous. Even if you're standing on a stepladder on the second rung painting a wall, you can fall off that and you can hit your head on the floor and die. So the activities themselves are dangerous anyway, Then when you put a large group of people all working together using different tools, there's a bit of walls knocking down, there's vehicles reversing outside, there's long lengths of metal and timber, it's quite easy for someone to have an accident. So as a client, but just as a human being, you have a responsibility, a moral responsibility to the people you've asked to come and work on your project, to provide them with a safe place to work and to go home at the end of every day to their family. But
Mhm.
from me as a contractor, if I turn up and one of the very first things you say is, "Look, mate, I'm aware that I'm a commercial client, therefore the CDM regulations apply. So I want to make it clear before we start. I want this to be a safe site and I want everyone to abide by their obligations." You're telling me a couple of things there. You're telling me that you know what you're talking about, and you're also showing me that you've got the respect for me and my men,
Mhm.
that you don't want anything to happen to us. If you bring that up in your very first meeting, you've already made a very good impression on me as a contractor. That, hold on, talking my talk now. This person might be all right. So, like I say, that's a little bit of getting away from the hobby aspect of it. Now, if we come to the money, like, it is a business with profit and loss. You know, you need to understand the cost of things you're buying, which is labour, materials, and services, and what you can sell them for. So when I see people just asking, on Facebook, "Oh, I've got this project. Well, and what would it cost? What's the ballpark cost? What's the square metre rate?" You're having a laugh. You couldn't set up as any other business like that and hope to be sustainable and viable. So you really need to get your act together when it comes to the actual cost of things. Where people lose a lot of money is not understanding the importance of quality. Everyone will say that they want quality. I mean, it just goes without saying. But there is actually a process. It's called the quality assurance process. And again, I hear bad advice such as go and check the builder's
Okay.
work. Right. So if you've spent the last 30 years working in the NHS or in IT, right, and you come and watch me working, you've come check my work.
Mhm.
Do you even know what you're looking at? Well, if you don't, how can you check it? And also, when you're doing flats and houses, they call
Nope.
that house bashing, right? Flats and houses, house bashing is fantastic
Mhm.
for hiding all the things you've done wrong, right? If you're an electrician doing a rewire, you cut a cable too short, you
Mhm.
put it in a junction box, which is banned these days anyway. You put it in a junction box and you hide it under the floors, and no one ever sees it. Do you know what I mean? If you cut a length of timber too short and you
Mhm.
think the governor's going to
Mhm.
go mad, all we got to do is take the bath panel off, throw it underneath there, put the bath. Fantastic, you know what I mean? Above the ceilings is another excellent place to hide stuff. So when people say go and check the builder's work, all you'll be able to check is what you can see. But that's quality inspections anyway. Quality inspections are part of quality assurance, because if you said to probably 99% of builders, what is your quality management plan for
Yeah.
this project? They just say, they look at you and they go, don't worry about it. Like, everything we do is quality. It's always the best quality. You say, yeah, well, that's good to hear.
Mhm.
So what's the plan then? They're
Mhm.
showing me the plan. And they go, well, the bloke running it, he's going to walk around and make sure everything's
Mhm.
done properly. Go, yeah, well, that sounds good. So where is the plan? Show me it.
Mhm.
Show me it in writing. It should be extrapolated from your company's quality policy that you should have on your website. Now, I've got one as a consultant that's
Okay.
16 pages long, right? And I work from home in front of a laptop. Um,
Mhm.
vast majority of them won't have one.
Mhm.
They won't have a company quality policy. Well, how can you have a quality management plan then? You ain't got one. That's not good enough. For me as a client, I require you as a
Mm.
contractor
Mm.
to provide me with documentary evidence that quality assurance process has been carried out. Right? It's as simple as that. And if you can't do that, then what are you doing on my project?
Mm. Mm. Is that
In
the
the
sort of thing that might come up in
pre-qualification questionnaire.
the
Exactly. You will be asking
questionnaire?
for, amongst other
Yeah, the
things, a
prequel.
copy of their company health and safety policy, and also a copy of their company quality statement or quality plan, right?
Got it. I mean, these are things that I'm not a developer or in that side of the industry, and these are things I haven't heard of. But I guess I might not have heard of them. But I don't know
Fair,
how many.
Very few, but
developers
then
have
how
heard of them,
many of them
or
suffer
newbie
poor
developers.
quality? Loads of them. Look, unfortunately, a lot of people, when they're
Yeah,
starting off, they're in this position that they haven't done it before, right? So all they're doing really is they're just hoping. They're hoping that for a start, the builder's actually going to turn up when he says he does.
yeah,
Then they're hoping that he's capable of doing the work that he says. They're
mm,
hopeful that he ain't going to disappear before the project's
mm,
finished. And they're just crossing their fingers, toes, and legs that there ain't going to be any additional expense. If there is, these people have no leverage at all to protect themselves, and you don't want to be in that position. So what I say to people, like I've just give you a couple of little snippets here. I say to people, if I go back to my point about understanding cost as opposed to value, for the sake of like $3,500 or $5,000 or something, is it not worth paying someone like me to come in at the beginning to show you all this stuff, to write all these documents for you in a Word format that you can then take to use project after project after project, to interface on your behalf with the contractor,
yeah,
to so if the builder's not capable of giving you a quality assurance process, then I will create one for you, and either I will implement it or I will show your project manager how to implement it. Is it not worth it? So you multiply that over the years and decades. If you did 100 projects between now and the time you retired, to give me 5, 10, 15 grand, is that not mere pennies in the big scheme of things? But because people are tight and they don't realise that they're not in business to save money, they're in business to make money, they would see getting someone like me in as an additional cost rather than bringing in additional value. They would much rather go in a WhatsApp group and ask a question or put a post up on Facebook.
I mean, as part from the cost element of it, we sort of touched on earlier about the not suffering the guilt,
Yeah,
and where these issues, accidents, whatever, likely to happen. And we said, it feels that it's not likely to happen. It's less likely to happen on bigger jobs where there's more structure, more
yeah.
accountability, etc. Way more likely to happen on smaller jobs. So I guess there's a profit element of it, but touching on your point, the human aspect of it is it's a high risk by nature activity, and how are you doing anything to protect
Well,
your
I'll give you a
contractors
scenario,
against
and to
harm?
anyone listening, if God forbid, one of your children got killed at work, and when I did the inquest, it turned out that the person in charge had actually never done this before, had no experience, but even worse, had made absolutely zero effort to inform themselves on how to carry out this work safely, and had paid not one penny to get some training or professional advice. Would would the unfortunate parents just be there shrugging their shoulders, going, "Oh well, you don't know what you don't know. Everyone's got to start somewhere." You wouldn't. You'd be furious. You'd want this person locked up, and then you'd be launching a campaign to make sure this never happened again. So if I flip that back now, why would anyone going into property development, which involves a large element of construction, not want to know how to keep people safe?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's taking it seriously, treating it like a business, and doing the right thing. I mean, we've touched on quite a lot there, Dave, about how to, as a beginner, or even done a few, the value of getting a scope of works
Yeah,
by a building surveyor. They will give you a cost and something to talk about to your builder. Treating your builder with
yeah,
respect, asking the right questions in the pre-qualification questionnaire. That's not something I've not heard of, but even being aware there is such a thing, and you can get answers to those
definitely.
sorts of things, is going to set you apart as a client, I guess, and that you're selling yourself as a client. So I think that's really important. That's coming across really loud and clear, actually. That as a client, you need to sell yourself by saying the right things and acting appropriately. Not least, talk about CDM, not even talk about it, but find out about it, and knowing that you don't know enough. So knowing that you don't know is a starter, but then you've got to do something with that information. And what I'm taking away from this conversation is you can learn and educate yourself, etc., But if you don't know anything, ask someone who does. Pay a consultant, and like you say, it's replicatable stuff. So
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And
you only
then you would
not know
build
it
on that
once.
knowledge going forward. It's like any business. When you start off, there's all these initial
Yeah.
upfront costs, that are not going to be payable every year. But when you're going into something brand new, you've got to pay people who know what they're doing, who've done it before. And that's all this is. And it's like contracts as well. Oh, dear. I see absolutely horrendous things with contracts. I see people going into deals that maybe they've paid 175 grand for the property, some stamp duty, legal fees, 50 grand refurb. They're in it for £250,000. Like, that is a lot of money, you know what I mean? 250 grand. But yet they're starting the work without a contract on nothing more than a handshake with a builder. And sometimes they're giving them 20 grand up front as well. And or what I see people signing up to are little more than the builder's payment terms and conditions. And all that will say will be, client Chris Jones, builder, Dave Ford Builders, to start on the 1st of January, project duration 12 months, 120 grand, 20 grand up front, and 10 grand on the 1st of every month. And people are just signing up to this. All it is the builder's payment terms and conditions. So you really need to protect yourself with a contract. Now, the most common ones that are used in the industry and that are relevant for property development are called JCT, and that stands for Joint Contract Tribunal. And what they do, they set out the rules for the project.
Okay.
And they share the risks equally, but they also impose obligations on both parties. So if there is a fallout, or the project runs over, or there's a financial loss, or there's a dispute where you just can't rectify it and move forward, both parties, the client and the builder or the contractor, have a legal avenue to pursue their grievance. So if I'm coming to you as a contractor and you say, okay, we're going to use a JCT minor works contract or JCT design and build contract, I know certain things. I know that you understand the values of contracts. I know that I will be protected by this contract. And I also know that you are willing to be held to the legal obligations of this contract. So straight away, that's another reason that I want to work for you as a builder. In our first conversation, you've brought up the health and safety, which is great. You're talking about JCT contracts, which is fantastic. I know, now I ain't got to worry about my money. And you've even got some proper drawings and some pricing documents that you can give to me. Like, this is fantastic. Now you are in a position to say, by the way, where's your quality management plan? I'm not and this will all be written into the contract before it starts as well. You can append documents to the contract. So again, getting away from the amateur hobby side of it, you're in a business here. You've got to try and mitigate risks, and you've got to have accurate idea of what things are going to cost you and profit you're going to make. So I hope I'm making some sense. I hope people are getting a bit of this.
Yeah, no, yeah, you definitely are. I just wrote down a moment ago, the compound effective experience, and what you're saying is that it's a result of a lot of time and effort and work and experience, etc. I think sometimes it's tempting to think of property development not as a business, but as a one-time project. I'm going to do a bit of property development. I'm going to make a few hundred grand, and I'm going to stop. And all the risk is front loaded, all the learning is front loaded, and it feels to me that rather than thinking of property development as project, I'm going to do a project. Think it of a business and just commit to being in it for longer. So if you say I'm going to do 5 projects in 5 years or something like that, you sort of you're setting your stall out differently already. You're going to say this is a business I'm going to create for a period of time to support myself and my family, etc., etc. And I'm going to learn how to do it right, but I'm going to do it for a long time, and I'm going to get better at it. My first one will probably be my worst one. My last one might be my best one. And I think a lot of landlords think that as well. Like, the first property you ever bought probably wasn't the best one in the world, but you probably got better at it since then. So your portfolio's probably strengthened over time, but that's fine. If you're only going to buy one property ever, it won't be the best in the world. You'll just take what you get a little bit.
Well,
So, and I think that's the same as this
yeah, but also
idea.
if you're
It's a business for long term.
if you thought I'm just going to do one, make 100 grand, as much as big sums of money
Yeah.
are made in property development, equally even bigger sums are lost. So that you might do one and one only, and it's a disaster. If I decided here and now today that I wanted to change my career and go and become an accountant, say, right now, I might not be the best accountant in the world. I might not have it in me. So I just might not be able to do that. But I would most certainly want to be the best that I could possibly be within my own skills and limitations. So I would encourage everyone to not just think I'm going to go for this, hit and miss. Hopefully, I make a few quid. Hopefully, if it goes wrong, I don't lose too much. Set yourself up properly. And like I say, like a business.
Well, it's loads of good stuff there, Dave. I mean, thanks very much. How do people get in contact with you to have a conversation with you or reach out to you? I've got
That's
your details on the bottom there, but is that
Yeah,
the
they
right
can
best
get
way
out
that
to
people
me.
can
Yeah, that email there
perhaps
and
reach out
that
to you?
phone number. You can email me through my website, but I'll be honest with you, I I I get several
Okay.
hundred emails a week. I struggle to keep up with them, but this one is probably the best. This email, or just phone
Yeah.
me. I'm
Yeah.
old school, mate. I don't like booking calendar links. So just pick the phone up. If I answer and I've got time, I'll speak to you. If not, I'll phone you back.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks very much. I mean, how was that for you? Do you
Yeah,
feel like you've
that's great,
said the
Chris.
things that you
I
want to
mean, I
say
have.
and
It's not look. It's not
shared?
just the
Yeah.
experience where I've learned, mate. It's the headache as well. I cannot tell you how much brain damage I've been through. Um, I can't. People won't believe me, but so I'm always grateful to share, and it pains me greatly when I see people, well-meaning, decent, well-intentioned people, losing money when there's no need. And let's be honest, there are some real unscrupulous tradesmen and builders out there. But also, I think a lot of stuff you hear on social media is misleading. It paints it as something anyone could do. If it was that easy, no one would ever do anything. They'd start school till they was 18, living at their mum and dad's house. Then they'd just go and borrow OPM, like you're told. Oh, yeah, there's money everywhere. Yeah, just borrow it. Yeah, oh, yeah, investors are everywhere. You
Yeah.
just borrow a couple of 100 grand. You just find a deal, no money down. You just find a builder and you'd make £250,000 quid. And it don't work like it just don't work like that. There's so many moving parts, and every single moving part and interface does the potential to lose time, make mistakes, and lose money. So let's quickly run over that again. You know what I mean? You're far better off just saying, look, I ain't done this before. I've
Yeah.
done a couple. I'm not actually a property developer. I've done a couple, but I won't try to pretend I'm some and I'm not. You want to run a safe site. I won't tolerate any corners cut. I understand there may be an additional cost to bring in access equipment. That's fine. I'm fine with that. But I'm not having any accidents here. I tell you, anyone who don't want to abide by that can leave now. You lay out your stall like that. I want to be protected by a contract. I want you to be protected by a contract. I've got a realistic idea of what it's going to cost. Here's the documents that I've got my costs from. Now you come back, give me a quote. If it don't quite match up, we can talk about it. Um, Obviously, I want to do some due diligence on you. Here's my pre-qualification questionnaire. Be so kind as to fill it out and return it with the documents I've requested. Then you get the human one-to-one, the feel for the person. And your decision making will always be slightly influenced by, do you think you can get on with this person? And there you go. And Don't have unrealistic expectations. Take your time. Listen, there's always going to be another deal. Always. If you ain't quite ready and prepared for this one, don't jump.
Yeah.
If it's your
Yeah.
ideal deal, and it's 5 minutes from your house, and it's everything you've ever wanted, but the figures don't quite work out. It's 75 grand to refurb
Yeah.
it. Let me tweak that. 74 grand. Oh, still don't work. 73 grand. Oh, still don't. Dan. Oh, look, 63 grand. It works. Yeah. No, the answer to that is no. Let it go. Keep hold of your money. Don't be in such a hurry to throw your money away. Right? Get the right deal for you. Get the right people on board. Do yourself a
Yeah.
favour. Spend a couple of grand getting some education about contracts, CDM regulations. Set yourself up properly. That way you'll attract better people, you'll have better results, and so on and so forth.
It's awesome. I've scribbled as much of that down as I could, but it's on record, so
Yeah,
we can
mate.
listen again. Dave, I think that's brilliant. I think that we'll wrap up there if that's okay. I'm just going to close in a few
All right.
moments, and then we'll chat offline in a couple of minutes.
That's all right, mate. So I'll leave
Here
the
we go.
laptop
Thanks
on,
for your
all
time
right?
and experience, David. Really appreciate it. Leave the laptop on for a few minutes. I'll just wrap up. Here we go. 2 seconds. So thank you for watching this episode of Your Property Business with Dave Ford. We've had loads of interesting experience, really, and just a rethink about how we might want to approach this property development subject, and that's what I've got out of it today. So if you're getting value from this interview, please show your appreciation by hitting the subscribe button and follow the podcast. My name is Chris Jones, and this has been Your Property Business.